Is a playmaker out of the University of Arizona going to be wide receiver one at the NFL level? We break it down. It's PHNX Sports, PHNX Cardinals, prospect breakdowns, Bo Brock, Damon Dog, of course, AZ Wildcats. He's been covering this team, cheering on the Cats for his entire life. We're talking about Tetairoa McMillan. I love to call him Tet, but I know him like that.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't like that at all. So I think that that's a pretty big indicator that you don't know him at all. But that's okay. When me and T-Mac were having a beer the other day, we were talking about it, but it's all good.
This is what these prospect breakdowns are all about. We're informing the public, and that's a little public service announcement right there. It's T-Mac is the nickname.
Yes.
It's not Tet. For whatever reason, people have adopted and pushed on the young prospect out of Tucson.
Yeah, I mean, we were having this conversation off air, Bo. It's, people choose your nicknames for you. You don't typically get to choose your nickname. But in T-Mac's case, people have been calling him T-Mac forever, since he was a kid. In Southern California football circles, he's been T-Mac to everybody. And more specifically, like, he has the other nickname of Nalo that is like more family oriented, but that's his other nickname. And instead we've chosen one that is neither of those to call him. So, interesting stuff.
Let's add another option potentially. How about wide receiver one? Is that a nickname that you think Tet's going to carry on? Sorry, T-Mac.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, you should be sorry. And I certainly think so. I mean, I know that it's become more of a popular take recently that to drop him down the rankings. Chris Sims has him as his third-ranked receiver. Daniel Jeremiah has him at 4. And, you're starting to see more of these draft analysts kind of, put guys like even like Emeka Egbuka and Kyle Williams even in the same class as a T-Mac. And, I find that hard to believe as, having watched him as much as I have over the last 3 seasons. I think he's a special player. I think he's an even more special person, not to like get super sappy, but like, I think a lot of times with receivers, you have to worry about drama at times. Like last year we saw this with Malik Neighbors versus Marvin Harrison Jr. and Marvin Harrison Jr., the choir boy, where it's like he's just you're not going to have any problems with them. And then Malik's having problems on the sideline. Like T-Mac is more in that MHJ role where you just know that he is going to be locked in and do anything he can to help this team win, even if it's not really, his best season as a rookie or whatnot.
Right. I mean, everybody in the NFL wants an alpha dog, right? Or an alpha bird in this case. But as far as like T-Mac, he's got the confidence. He doesn't lack confidence, but he's not cocky. He's not going to ever have that diva label that this is synonymous with the wide receiver position in the NFL. A solid 6'4", nearly 220 pounds, decent arm length. He's got the big hands. This is a guy that projects to be a big-time playmaker at the NFL level. What's our guy, Fran Duffy, our All-City NFL draft analyst, know about Tetairoa McMillan? He breaks it down now.
All right, time now for Arizona wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan, a 2-time All-American for the Wildcats. He was the highest-rated recruit in Arizona football history, and he paid that through in full by making sure he came out and was one of the most productive players in the history of the program. I mentioned the All-American status, but one of the best receivers in the nation over the last 2 seasons. And when I talk about his superpower at 6'4", 220 pounds, there's the size and strength aspect of it. What I love most about his game is he's got outstanding, confident hands. He rarely puts the ball on the ground. 2023, he was excellent. A 2% drop rate. Here this past season, it climbed up to 8, so that gave him a 6% drop rate on his career. That's a really good number. The offense was a little bit wonky this year, a new system, some new moving pieces around it, new offensive linemen in front of him. But when you're looking at the way that this receiver can win, most of his snaps, 75% of the time, he was outside the numbers. He would kick inside about a quarter of the time. But when you're looking at McMillan, he wins with size and strength. I really put a lot of value in receivers that can win through contact at every stage of the route. You're facing press coverage. Can you run through a jam? Mid-route, can DBs bump you off your path and disrupt the timing with you and the quarterback? That's not going to be the case with McMillan. And then in those contested situations, you're going to face contact in the NFL. Are you able to make those catches through contact at the catch point? That's something that McMillan has been able to show over the course of his career. Now, is he going to be a dynamic playmaker with the ball in his hands? No, he's never going to be some dynamo yards after catch type player. He's not going to be a consistent vertical shot guy down the field. He can get downfield, but he's not going to be that true vertical stretch element. There are other guys that have size that I think have a little bit more verticality to their game. Where he's going to win is at the catch point and being a separator. Now, that's an area where I do think he can improve. Some of the DBs that I've talked to out west and in the Big 12, they really praised his ability to kind of set up his routes and show good pacing and create separation, kind of lull guys to sleep and then break away at the last second. I do think, based off my film study, that he can get a little bit more crisp there, a little bit more purposeful with his movement to create that separation. And to me, that's what's going to dictate whether or not he becomes a top shelf, like a number one receiver, or if he's more of a complement in a passing game. To me, I compared him to Cortland Sutton, who's been with the Denver Broncos coming out of SMU. He was a second-round pick. I think he's outplayed that draft slot. I think when you're looking at McMillan, he could be that. He could be T. Higgins. He could be somebody that wins primarily outside, not going to be the burner, but you know that he's going to create that separation. If he can get better and more consistent as a route runner, I think you're going to feel good about where you select him. If he doesn't, well, now you're talking, all right, well, is he going to be more of, a Tim Patrick type, a Jacoby Myers type? Is he going to be maybe a lowercase Mike Williams type? Those guys, Mike Williams got paid on the open market a couple years ago. I think when you're looking at McMillan, this is a skill set that plays in the NFL. There are just varying degrees of it. He's never going to be that explosive vertical threat. But if you can get open, play through contact, and successfully catch the football, not put it on the ground, be a reliable pass target, you're going to be that quarterback's best friend. And I do think having 25% of his snaps being in the slot, that gives him some versatility to be able to be moved around by a creative offensive coordinator. I think that there's some potential there for him to be a really successful big inside receiver in the NFL. And so multiple pathways to success for Tetairoa McMillan. I talked about some of the wide variety of outcomes there for him in terms of the type of player I see. I do think he can be a number one target in the league. Now it's just a matter of what level of route runner is he going to become. If he can take that next step there, I feel really good about him hitting his ceiling and being worth a first-round pick.
Great stuff from our guy, Fran Duffy, the Duff Man, breaking down T-Mac's game. What stood out to you, Damon?
Yeah, one thing that, I will kind of disagree with our guy Fran on, and love Fran, by the way, but I think that he's undervaluing his ability with the ball in his hands. I have a tweet up here from Dane Brugler, very well-known, draft analyst, saying, that he's an absolute weapon with the ball in his hands. And there's plenty of evidence of that. Like when you get him in space, you throw him a screen, he can break some tackles for a guy who's 6'4" and, kind of slender as well. He's got a thin frame. You wouldn't exactly, maybe you worry about that a little bit at the NFL level, but he certainly has some elusiveness and juke ability that I think is really being undervalued, not just by Fran, but I think by a lot of draft analysts across, just because they see the big high pointing jump ball receiver with great hands. And that's not typically a guy that you really want to throw the ball with, yards after catch aspirations. And in T-Mac's case, I think that he's a unicorn in that sense.
I love the comp that Fran Duffy made, T. Higgins. Hadn't really thought of that one. I've always heard, Mike Evans and a lot of the comparisons go there. But with all that being said, I think Tetairoa McMillan could absolutely be a big-time playmaker on an offense. But I do feel like he would benefit from having a complementary piece, whether it's a playmaking tight end or whether it's a slot receiver. But he would definitely benefit from that. What's not to like about his size? I know there's always the conversation, the debate with guys built like him. Can he separate at the next level? But he's shown that even if he has struggles doing that, his ability to go up and win those 50-50 balls, those contested catches, it was elite at the collegiate level. And that's not something that just is easy to find in the draft. I do think he's the top wide receiver in this draft. I know it's been a polarizing subject, and people want to talk about Travis Hunter. Is he even considered a wide receiver? I view him more as a defensive back. Matthew Golden, that's nice, nice 40 time. But what T-Mac was able to accomplish and play consistently at a high level and be kind of not quarterback proof, but system proof, and still put up big numbers, you have to appreciate that. I think he's going to be a big-time player at the next level. Where does he fit in best, though, in the first round of the NFL draft?
Yeah, there's a couple teams that make a lot of sense to me. You look at a team like the Carolina Panthers, and I think that's the ceiling of probably where he would be going at this point. I know there had been discussions about like the Patriots at 4 in the past, and they obviously need a receiver. I think if they move down, that's an option for sure, but doesn't look as likely right now. I think the Panthers at 8 is his ceiling, and they're a team that needs a true number 1 target, right? Like Adam Thielen is a great player. He's had a great career. He's also, in his mid-30s at this point. Your friend, by the way, Adam Thielen. And on top of that, right, you have Xavier Legette last year who had a somewhat disappointing rookie season, maybe doesn't project to be that number 1 type receiver that you would want. And
if you eat raccoon, you can't be a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. That's just what I've lived by.
Have you seen his Instagram, by the way?
Oh, it's elite.
Absolutely electric. His horse Dollar Bill. You got to check that out. But T-Mac might not have the Instagram prowess of Xavier Legette, but he certainly would be Bryce Young's best target. And help him develop further as he gets into year 3. Another team I look at that I think really could
also
use
Dave
him.
Canales, the head coach there, was OC for the Bucks. He knows how to utilize big-bodied receivers.
Yeah. A lot of Mike Evans comparisons, which are extremely lofty for T-Mac, no doubt. But I think that's we talk about ceilings. That's the ceiling of a prospect, right? Like you see a best case scenario, and maybe Canales sees a little bit of that in T-Mac, but. Moving forward, I think a team like the Dallas Cowboys, they have no secondary receiving options outside of CeeDee Lamb on their team. You mentioned, could he look great with maybe a more put in place number 1 option already?
Yeah.
I think that's the place, right? Like CeeDee Lamb would be requiring most of the defense's attention. They might be bracketing him.
Plays in the slot a lot too.
Plays in the slot a lot. T-Mac on the outside could get a lot of one-on-one situations where Dak Prescott or whoever is playing quarterback, Jalen Milroe or not Jalen Milroe,
Joe Milton.
Joe Milton throwing the football up there. Like T-Mac could come down with those one-on-one opportunities, and that's probably where you want him in most. So I think the Cowboys make a lot of sense for him as well.
Cardinals probably not an option. I mean, this is a team that's going to be at 16th overall. Does T-Mac make it there? Not a need for the Cardinals in the first round. We're not talking second round with a prospect of this caliber, so we're not going to waste your time. Those are some good landing spots for the University of Arizona playmaker. Drop in the comments where you think Tetairoa McMillan needs to be playing at the next level. Like this video, and of course, subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube.